Wednesday, the 30th of August, 2017. It's the Investitude Podcast, John, and we got a lot of stuff we can talk about today. Where do you want to start? Should I give you a list?
Well, that seemed to be popular yesterday when you gave me a list. The NASDAQ. En fuego, by the way, Andrew. But what else do you want to talk about? We'll hit all of it.
Okay. We'll start with number one. One of our listeners left a comment that he loved me. He thought that my joke about Joel Osteen's ARC was awesome, and he said that you're lame.
As in me lame or you lame?
No, I think he was talking about
Which
you.
Which one of us is lame? Oh, see, now he loves to turn this around.
He loves my jokes. I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
But he opened up his ARC. Now he's got like mountains of Pampers and stuff like that. It just seems
the one thing that I would say, without knowing the rest of the details, but knowing a little bit about disaster and helping out in a disaster, which I've done, and that is, I don't think you want to necessarily just open up a place if you don't have security in place, because it could become pretty nasty very quickly. Now, it's a different story if you had, for instance, something that was a shelter and there was a tornado heading down the street. Would you open it up for people? Of course.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about, a 17,000 seat, which is as big as most professional basketball arenas.
It was.
Church, yeah. I don't know that you necessarily can do that until you can get some security. So for whatever reason, he finally did open it up, and I think it was the right thing to do. I'm glad he did it.
Yeah, but it just seems so. He was an easy target, and everybody just like took shots at him for it, and it's just part of the folly of this whole flood. But anyway, the ARC is up and going, and there's Pampers on that ARC. So, and then the other thing, we'll move on, was I read there was an article on the Drudge that there was some big sex show in Hong Kong. These dolls are, these sex dolls. They're making. Yeah, they're huge.
The robots.
Yeah, you can get. There's one of them. You can
sort
buy.
Of a robot, I guess.
You can go to the show and you can get a Game of Thrones elf, if that's your.
Oh my God!
I know. God. I'm gonna put one in the office. Hey, what's that? That's my Game of Thrones.
What's that? That's Game of Thrones elf. Oh my God!
My Game of Thrones sex elf. I mean, crazy.
Next.
Hey, by the way, wasn't GE in the plastics? I think they need to do that.
For a long time they were, yeah.
They need to.
You're thinking they should be?
They should come out and say we're the leading exporter or maker of plastic for sex dolls in Asia, and you watch GE would go up like what, 2, 3, 4 points.
Might be the only thing that could get that pig moving.
I know, my God, we were talking about that on the Investitude board today. As you know, a lot of the investors that go on the Investitude board, throw their 2 cents around, and we were having a nice little chat about GE. And, some of these guys are pretty smart guys. They're like analysts, and they were saying this thing is a dog. I don't know how long it can stay a dog, but, we're thinking maybe below 24, 23. I mean, it's consistently been down in a bear market. What do you think of GE?
I think there are easier ways to make money in the market. I've got several, and that's what I'll focus on. If something's not seeing any growth and certainly not any fast money flow, this one did have it earlier in the year, and it had a nice pop into the 30s, and that was, we said, hey, it's breaking out. Well, it broke back down too.
Big time.
So I don't need to buy this one. I think I've got others that are.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about making fast money, not slow sex doll money. That's what they need.
Let's do it.
All right.
AMD, Advanced Micro Devices.
I
like that one. Some very strong activity. What they did, Andrew, was they took October 13 calls and rolled them out to November. Rolling means they sold out their longs and bought the other. So I like that. I think the stock can go, and I think that's a reasonable trade. with with AMD where it's at. So if it was a $10 stock running to 13, well, that's a bigger deal. You and I bought it on that dip. You bought it under 10, but this is a $12.50, $12.60 is approximately where this thing is. So I think that is a reasonable move by October, but not an unusual request. Not putting too much onus on the stock to do that.
Okay, and then there was a name that popped up, was SUM, S-U-M, which
love this one.
Do you like
Yep.
that? It's interesting. I have never seen the name before.
New all-time, or maybe not all-time. I'll stand back from that. I'll say it's a new 52-week high, and it may be a new all-time high. It's, as far as I've got data on the company, Summit Materials, it may be an all-time high. But it's in the building space, construction materials. They're based out in Denver, and boy, nice pop, 6% today, and luckily the heat seeker picked up on the unusual activity pretty quick, and Pete made a nice trade on this one.
All right. And then you had Holly earlier. Now you're coming back with that, right? HFC?
Yeah, we had HFC last week twice. I tweeted it out. I tweeted out a link to them, I think, Andrew. And that stock has moved 16% in a week. Give you an idea, so that's a really nice move in the stock. The options tripled, in some cases quadrupled. So some very nice response to that. The fact that these guys and PBF, that's Papa, Beta, Frank, both are in the space where they're not being impaired. Their ability to produce refined materials like diesel and gasoline aren't being impaired because these guys weren't in Texas. So, you're one of the lucky guys that can open and stay open. PBF has 5 refineries, and Holly's got several, and none of them are in Texas, in the impacted area.
All right, and 2 more, and they're food-related. One's Mondelez. Buffett came out with something on them today saying that might not get bought, which I thought was interesting. I like when there's a little blood, and the other one's Jack in the Box. Which one do you want to take first?
Jack in the Box, because a guy from Wedbush was on the show with us, and a guy from Maxim, M-A-X-I-M, Maxim. Both these gentlemen were talking about Sonic, Jack in the Box, CHUY, and there was one other, PBRI. Those are stocks that would be impacted because they had unusually large exposure to Texas, in particular to the impacted areas. So they'd sold off between 3 and 5%. Today, for the first time in 4 days, they were buying in Jack in the Box, JACK. So I bought that, made it my final trade during the halftime.
Yeah, we
report.
saw that. That's another good reason you can listen to the podcast daily, is because we recap some of the stocks that you talk about. So if you're not at home in the middle of the day watching Fast Money, you can sort of catch up with what we talked about here on the podcast. So tell me about this Mondelez. I was looking at it kind of. I've seen strength in Mondelez for the last year, as you know, and we've had it.
Mm-hmm.
And because Buffett comes out and says, Dude, give me your Buffett impersonation. You do it better than I do.
Well, Becky, Kraft or Mondelez, I don't believe Heinz is interested any longer in buying Mondelez. Because I'm saying that on TV live, I may have bought some puts ahead of this, but the stock's probably going to be hit, Becky, because I'm saying I don't like it. It did. It traded down to like 40.39, the lows of the day. It's bouncing back from there. Because Buffett and his group with Heinz aren't going to step up and buy them doesn't mean somebody else is.
Somebody else will.
And
Definitely
I think somebody else will.
I know, it's on my radar. This is the thing. I just want a little bit more hate when it comes to this. I mean, I put it on my list, for maybe like next week or maybe like Friday when it's slow. because we got the 3-day weekend coming up. So there's stuff that's on my list that I might just step in and buy in 2 days.
Good point by you. It will be painfully slow on Friday.
Yeah.
So be very careful.
Yeah, but then, just nibble at it.
Not about this trade, I mean, in general. You don't want to be in a position where you have to try to save something or trade out of it in a low volume environment. So if it's something that you're nervous about, be out of it by Thursday, because Friday will be thin. Well, remember, folks, you can always grab the podcast from Google Play, from iTunes, from YouTube. We appreciate it whenever you leave a note saying how much you like it in the comments section of any of those. And we hope you say something nice about Andrew every once in a while, since he's apparently the guy that you're listening for. Thanks, folks.